Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Once again, I'd like to welcome everybody. Whoa!
It's quite a welcome.
I'm sorry. I think I angered it. I want to welcome everybody to your POA board meeting, and we continue to operate under our COVID protocols to protect our meeting participants. And today, one of our members is not in attendance. To assure transparency and to allow community participation, this meeting is being live streamed and it is also being recorded and will be available on the POA website. One announcement I want to make is that the HOA is sponsoring the POA Candidates Forum tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. It's 4 to 6. It'll be actually in this room, but it'll be live streamed. One other announcement I want to make is many of you know that Recreation Advisory Committee recently lost a stalwart member in Jim Lilly. Jim's contributions will certainly be missed. This morning the board was asked and did approve the appointment of Bill Butera to fill Jim's remaining term. Bill is a former RIC member who will bring his talents back to the committee. So thank you, Jim, or Bill, we really appreciate that. And with that, let's get started. I need a motion to approve the October 7th, 2020 TVPOA board minutes as presented.
Motion.
There's
Second.
a motion. Second. Any changes? All in favor? Okay. So, the original agenda did not include what's going to come next. You may recall that there were new guidelines issued by the state regarding COVID-19 protocols. All of the managers were given those new guidelines and they were asked to examine their current operation protocols. And there are 2 operations that will be proposing changes. The others are basically standing pat, and Mitzi is about to review those changes.
All right, thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. Shannon, if we could have the first slide. What I'd like to come to you today is the request. Our recreation department has gone back and reevaluated the guidelines and feel that we can safely open the basketball gymnasium and the racquetball courts. Many of you know the playgrounds have actually already been opened. Currently, the recreation department is going back and forming plans to reevaluate and look at the meeting spaces, but at this time, we're not requesting that. We would just like to open the basketball gymnasium and the racquetball courts.
So can I have a motion to reopen the basketball gymnasium, racquetball courts, and playgrounds? Pat? Sue? Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you. Our next request comes from the food service area. Skylar, Andy, and Edgar here at the Yacht Club have been working with the HOA, the New Villagers, and representatives that come to Tiki Bar, looking at options to get different different amenities and groups available to come into this yacht club. One thing that we wanted to look at was the room and the patio downstairs. The request would be to open up for more capacity, which would allow for 130 people. The tables would still remain at 6 feet apart. The tables would hold 10 people. This will allow for social distancing. There would be no bar stools allowed. Dancing would be permitted with the requirement of wearing a mask. What we would do is the downstairs seating would have 100 chairs, and then we would be adding the 30 more over near the bar alcove. For cleanliness, you will see we would have 2 employees that would be sanitizing throughout the evening on which these events are held, as well as management and staff will be there to enforce these policies throughout the evening. I think I actually have a couple more slides, Shannon. We can skim through those. You all have probably seen that, but this just shows for the layout. We've actually asked management of the food service operation to please provide how this would actually look. And they have also worked with HOA, New Villagers, and representatives.
So basically what I'm seeing there is in the bar room, those would be sign-up tables and there's rules for those?
That's correct.
And would you tell the board?
In the very back there where it says all tables must be 6 feet apart, that's those 6-foot tables right-hand side of the screen at the top. That would allow for 2 chairs behind and 2 chairs in front, and the guests would be able to sit down 2 at a time only in that situation.
Okay.
What do you do in a case of a queue that forms to get to those tables? No queues?
The dots. They,
No, the dots go to the
Dots
bar.
at the bar.
well, they'll, there should be dots that go to those tables as well.
Good point.
We did talk specifically about communicating this as well as we can to the property owners, making sure that everybody understands there
Yeah.
will be rules and we have to follow those rules, so we can actually
So-
add signage with the,
So at the sign-up
Addition.
tables, the queues have to be 6 feet apart. Okay. And this would be the layout for the tiki bar. Now, one of the requirements for live entertainment or a DJ is that the DJ or the band has to be a minimum of 15 feet from the nearest person. So.
yep,
And then those tables that are in the bar area, those are tables for 8?
correct.
Is that what I'm seeing?
Correct.
Okay. And what will happen if, more than the capacity want to come down the stairs to the tiki bar?
When we reach our capacity, our management has the authority to tell the next person in line, I'm sorry, we're full, and you would have to wait until one person leaves before we can allow you to enter.
Okay. And at the tables of 10, unless you're eating or drinking, masks will be required, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the food service alterations? Pat? Sue? Discussion?
So Mitzi, I have a question. Back on your first slide, you had shown that there's going to be extra cleaning involved. So have you guys, so obviously that will be an added expense. So have you guys discussed how that cost will be handled?
A follow-up to that, I actually spoke with Andy. If you're in the room and if I say this wrong, you correct me, but the actual presentation here today for Tiki Bar was not for dancing. That was one thing I wanted to clarify after this morning. But as far as the extra charge, like the $20 for the cleaning, that is the events only. There wouldn't be any extra, cleaning fee for this type event. Is that correct, Andy?
Yeah, bottom
You need
line
the
is-
microphone.
No, it's okay. So bottom line is the reason why we started the $20 fee. Okay.
Yep, sorry.
Gotcha. But bottom line is the reason why we started the charge in the first place was for events that were meeting only. I mean, if there's an event that's actually eating or drinking and spending money, then we have the staff there and the staff are getting paid. So there's no extra fees or charges. Even with New Villagers and HOA, if they would actually utilize the bar to a standpoint of actually spending a bunch of money, then we don't have to charge them $20 a head to have somebody walking around. It's just strictly for the groups that just want a meeting space. They're not spending any money, and yet we have staff here, so obviously we got to you know, we gotta cover that expense.
What are you gonna do, just tiki bar?
Well, there's bar. The bar's open.
The bar's gonna pay
Yeah.
for the cleaning.
And in the long run, you know, having 100+ people here for Tiki Bar is going to add dining room. You know, people can come have dinner and then go downstairs and hang out. So it's a win-win all the way around.
So you absorbing that cost through your
Correct.
sales, right?
Correct.
Then our question this morning had to do with dancing. So you're saying that, okay, so let's take the conversation this morning and apply it to the same debate we had. So there's a band and there's a bar and there's no dancing and somebody decides to dance.
Well, so originally the Tiki Bar, there's two ways we can do Tiki Bar. One is to set up tables on the dance floor, and then there really is no dancing.
Yeah, that's true.
If we set the tables up as this, there is dancing. We're just going to have to require masks to be worn at all times except for when they're sitting there drinking.
Okay, so let's say we morph into, you don't put the tables and there's dancing. Our discussion this morning, I'm dancing with Alice and Alice doesn't want to wear a mask. What are you gonna do?
It's going to be a challenge. We're gonna have to. I mean, somebody.
Well, she's my
so-
wife. She doesn't have to wear a mask around me.
So either Skylar or Edgar, who are the two senior managers in this building, are going to have to walk up and say, "Listen, I'm sorry, but you have to put a mask on, or we're going to have to ask you to leave."
Okay.
Now, as far as I understand from the morning conversation, you guys are giving us the authority to actually do that.
And the reason
That's
behind that is because of the rules of compliance that we have to follow in order to open this back up.
Correct.
So if you want us not to have a tiki bar, you don't
Correct.
want to do this, show up on a dance floor, don't put on a mask, don't follow the compliance that's issued by the state, right? We can do this if we all, each member, resident, decides to comply.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
Yep.
I would just like to point out from a fire department standpoint, you're out there dancing with your mask on, you need to go sit down every once in a while and take a drink so you don't hyperventilate.
I've seen a lot of the dancing at the Tiki Bar. A lot of people don't move quite that fast anymore.
Speak for yourself right there.
And so which was also part of this morning's conversation, and it seems to me that you see this in all kinds of social gatherings where, yes, the rule is, okay, if you're on the floor and you're dancing, and if one of you guys has to go and say, hey, you got to put the mask on, and that person says, no, I'm not going to do that, now what?
I mean, I'm gonna have to talk to them, to Skylar and Edgar, and figure out, what the, does it get to a point where we just say to the band, sorry, shut it down, we gotta go?
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's
That's the
right. I mean,
answer.
that's,
That's
So-
the
so
answer.
it-
So we
it-
have to
it
be as
boils
specific
down-
as we can.
In my opinion, for discussion for the board, it boils down to the consideration of one person saying, I don't want to wear a mask. Be considerate to me rather than the other 100 people that are here complying.
Yep.
That's what it boils down to. And that one person, I just want to make this clear because that was our discussion this
Yes.
morning, can shut the whole thing down. The band will be unplugged and we will go home in order to comply with the government guidelines.
I'll just point out that I went to a volleyball tournament recently with my granddaughter, and they made the announcement, if you're in the audience and you don't have a mask on, we'll tell you put it on. If you don't, then your team gets kicked out of the tournament. And it's amazing how many people kept their mask on. Same thing here. If you say, please put your mask on, and then they don't, then you go over and you unplug and say, folks, we're through for the night.
yeah, if that's what we need to do, then I guess that's what we need to
That's
do.
called peer pressure.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, any other questions from the board? All in favor? 6-0.
Okay, so just to finish that, we don't have any bands booked yet, so we're not starting it this Friday. We need to actually book the music first and figure it all out. Okay.
I kind of figured that.
All right.
We certainly are looking forward to getting these amenities open and back to what they used to be.
Yeah.
Get our people in here.
And let me just go back, I've gotten a lot of questions about meeting rooms at Chota. Currently, the Recreation Advisory Committee is forming plans as to what conditions and how they would reopen the meeting rooms. That's still to come. So with that, we'll move on to the Advisory Committee liaison reports, and the first one is Mitzi with continuous improvement.
Thank you. Hard to believe we're already here in Q3 and Halloween is around the corner, but here we are. What I'd like to do today is talk to you about current projects that we have going on and how they are tallying up cumulatively among the whole organization. So our first department we're going to look at is recreation. You all have heard about this. This has been a big event in Tellico Village, but one of the things that Simon has initiated is getting this Timeless Tellico Foundation kickoff. That becomes a part of CI under his belt. This would not be, at year end when we say, okay, management, let's look at all of our projects and all of the real dollar savings that we would be presenting to the board to go back into an amenity reserve fund or whatever reserve fund that the board decides. This would not necessarily be a part of it, but we as a management team felt like it's such an important part of what continuous improvement is. Simon has gone out, looked for a new way to bring in, monies to the POA, and this is one of the things. So of course, up, to date, I think they've raised close to $80,000, but this was just the kickoff event that I wanted to highlight, which was held on September the 8th. And on that day alone, they brought in $45,000, and we just thought that was a huge success. And, each of us managers have applauded Simon and his team and that board for all the tremendous work that they've done. So I just wanted to touch base on that quickly. Our next slide here. There was $15,000 of equipment budgeted for the Kahiti Recreation facility, but Simon was able to use the equipment from Chota and move it to Kahiti, so there was a savings of $15,000. The equipment that's there now is under warranty and state of the art. I had a couple of other photos, but because I didn't have the property owner's permission, I didn't share those, but it's being utilized. I wanted to actually show you all how much the property owners there are enjoying the use of that new equipment. So I thought that was a great way to utilize that. Next, I want to say about golf. Let me just throw out this, that I have only received information from Tanasi. I still have not had an opportunity to get with Jordan from the Kahiti Golf Maintenance as well as John from the Tokwa Golf Maintenance. So this update will actually change as far as Q3 because they do have projects as well. I just was not able to include them in your report for today. But one of them that Tanasi did turn in was the $500 per acre, the naturalization project that they have going on. And this just shows some pictures. Wells wanted me to share kind of how that grass has grown back in. But many of you that are golfers are aware of this project, and each golf course has this going on. But this was the one that I received this quarter, so I wanted to share that with you. Next, we'll look at the admin department. What I've done is just use the exact same projects that we had last quarter, and Parker has gone and updated each of the numbers for us. So if you look at the ongoing efforts that we have to increase the collections of those delinquent accounts through Q3, we're at $19,500. Using TSI for enhanced collections, our savings is $34,000. And then by emailing the delivery of the customer's water bills and sewer bills, that savings for the quarter amounts to about $2,500. So cumulatively, if you look at the admin department, just through Q3, they are at $56,200. And what is our next slide there? Public Works, using the in-house personnel to perform brush and leaf pickup versus outsourcing. Their savings through Q3 is at $67,000. And then the residential sewer tank mods that Chad has recently given you all an update on through Q3 would be about $10,000 savings. So if you look at Public Works cumulatively, we're at $77,000. I'm going to talk a little bit about this IT help desk ticketing system. I want to go into a little greater detail than some of the other projects because this was a huge initiative pushed with the HOA along with some of you as board members. But I want to say before I get into that, cumulatively across the board throughout the entire organization, when you say all in, or we as management team say all in with our CI savings, we are over 300,000 for the year of 2020. Now that includes, savings that are time management savings, that may be personnel hours savings. So that's not going to be what's considered true dollars at year end, but throughout the whole program, for this year, I think it's very successful to say that we're over 300,000. Now, when it comes year end, Q4, and it's time to sit down with the management team, our goal is to give back to the association 170,000 in real dollars, and we are on target to do that as of right now. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Okay, looking at our help desk ticketing system, let's go back one for just a moment, Shannon. It went live on August the 19th. Since that time, the tickets answered are actually 492. I created this slide last Wednesday, so in just 1 week, we're already, as of today, 492 tickets. We've actually received 98 post-ticket closing surveys with a positive rating of 93%. The members' feedback that we've been getting on those has been glowing, and they've praised the system. Now, we have also received a few negative ones, and what has happened is our IT department has found that immediately right off the bat there was a glitch in the system with anyone who had a Gmail account. The survey was going to them immediately before they were even receiving our answers, so they immediately were responding with, well, I never heard anything back. So we had to work with that for a little while and found out that those emails were going into a spam folder. And, Kevin Alfont called people on a daily basis to find out, can you give us your feedback? Why was it negative? And so we've got that taken care of now. So moving forward, we should not see that problem. And if you'll go to the next slide, what I'd like to do is show you, and this is very much an eye chart, so I will try to highlight things as they are in colors. But this just gives you an example of what our database looks like from our end, and it's hard to read. I'll stand up here and show you. The pie chart we use a lot because what this shows us is the categories. If somebody says water and sewer, if somebody says, and I can't even read what that one is, but we have safety, we have admin department. This says other, and so what we really, what we've really tried to encourage the property owners who are using those is sometimes the category that they're looking for is not there, so it is hard for us when we look at it as a management team, like, hey, where are our problem areas? So as we get these others and we see some consistent things that maybe, it might be brush and leaf pickup or whatever it may be, we will then create more categories. We can do that as we go on using this system, in order to be able to show, statistically, okay, here's a big problem area and it is, whatever, water drainage, whatever it may be. So just wanted to show you that we use that a lot internally just to see kind of what's out there. The very bottom lines, which are hard to see, but the red arrows going straight across, that actually has employees' names by those, and it just shows us, okay, who has the most open tickets out there. So I can look at that. In the very top line, it says Stephen Zell, who's in IT, and so on and so forth. So that just gives us as administrators over this to say, hey, so-and-so, you sure do have a lot of open tickets. Can we talk about this, or are you working on these? What are the status? So it's going to be very helpful when, we have a full, hopefully 6-8 months of data just to be able to show everybody how this system works. All right, and the next slide should be another screen. And what this shows is one person, one employee. The employee's name's Kevin Hamill, and he is in our Public Works Department. And it just shows us his tickets. If you see down in the right-hand corner, it says report showing Kevin Hamill's tickets from 9/8 to 10/15. And you'll see how it goes down. That's the weekends. So his tickets are up through the day, through the week, and then it goes down on the weekends. And that's the trend line. Again, we just wanted to show you that there are several different reports. So depending on what we'd like to see, we can pull from a lot of things in that dashboard. And then the very last slide, again, I apologize, it's an eye chart. I just want to give you a screenshot. This is what it looks like for me, Kevin Alfont, Beth. As an administrator, when we go in every day, we can see the tickets that are open and the tickets that are recently closed. And that is what I look at every day, and I can see who the ticket has been assigned to, you know, how many days. The very far right-hand side tells us how many days that ticket's been open or how many hours that ticket's been open. And that's important to us. As a matter of fact, I sent an email out yesterday to a gentleman that had several outstanding open tickets. And, you know, he assured me they'd been addressed. He just hadn't been back in front of his desk to close out those tickets and to update the status. For us, it's important that we update that status and close out the ticket. Even though they knew the property owner had been taken care of, we didn't know. Plus, I didn't have it in writing, and then now we have that in writing. And so it has really been an eye-opener for us in the office. We get a lot of, you know, when is my trash going to be picked up, or when is my brush going to be picked up, and you know, heard the road was getting paved, or can we trick or treat? You know, a lot of things that are very simple that we can just answer for them and not necessarily have to assign that ticket to somebody, but at least we have that data to show what type of questions our property owners asking. So I wanted to share that with you. Again, I apologize for the small writing, but you're welcome to come by anytime and we can kind of go through all the different screens and all the reporting that it has, the capability.
Mitzi, just one quick question on that. I know we talked about before, if a property owner calls in with an issue, obviously not a quick answer question, but something that needs a work ticket or whatever, is it then, does the staff then put that in, create a work
Yes.
ticket through that system?
Yes,
Okay.
we are doing
Great.
that as
So
well.
everything's
Yep.
being tracked.
Absolutely, yep, we are doing that as well.
Can you remind everybody how to submit a ticket? I mean, it's where to find it.
We actually have a link on our website, and it's the help desk ticket. If you just go to our homepage, and you'll see the link out there. Beth puts it in the Telegram. I've actually started putting it on my email where my signature line is, so we're trying to really get it out there for everybody to use that.
Yeah, there's actually a link called Help
Help
Spot.
Spot.
Help Spot, yeah. Okay.
And it's
On
at the
the site.
bottom, I think, of every page on the website.
So we
You
ought to
can
be
get
able to-
once you get logged in.
Yep, I encourage everyone to use it because, again, it just helps us with just looking at the data to see what type of issues or questions we have going on.
I have had a few people ask how to log into the website because they have apparently hadn't used it for a while, and you just log in using your email address and your POA number is your password.
Perfect.
So I just want to make a comment too, that I think it's a great system. I've been referring people to it, and it's an easy way for people then to get their issues or concerns or whatever published and somebody looking at it, so a lot of good feedback.
Right. And I mean, again, my numbers to date were 492. I mean, that's impressive. We just went live in August. So, yeah, it's great.
Any other questions for Mitzi? Okay.
Are we seeing a corresponding reduction in complaints on next door?
I don't see next door, but
We got to do the correlation analysis on that yet, Bruce.
Anytime there's a complaint, somebody just needs to post the link to Help Spot, and then
Help
maybe
Spot.
that would
There you
help.
yeah.
Hey, can I make a clarification on the POA website real quick, just so people aren't confused? You have to register the first time. So you can't just go in with your email and your POA number as a password and expect to get in. If you've never registered, you do have to register. And some people may not have used their POA number as their password, so whatever you set up when you registered will get you in. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Okay, that brings us to food service third quarter report.
I won't touch it. Good afternoon, everyone, again. Welcome. We'll talk about year-to-date through the end of September 2020. You can just, who's doing slides there, Mitzi? Oh, Shannon. A couple of highlights. Obviously, we just had that talk about the Tiki Bar, which is fantastic, and I'm sure that HOA and New Villagers will be very happy that we can grow their groups a little bit as well. And obviously, with that, dinner business should be increasing as well. Even without that, before we had that conversation, we have been doing numerous events at the Pavilion. We have been doing some events at the Great Room. What that has done for us third quarter, which was really pretty awesome, it did increase dinner business. Actually, this past September, was back to 85% of 2019 numbers as far as dining room is concerned. Obviously, the catering is still well below. And then we have added some small meetings up here and in the Great Room downstairs. And we have done quite a few events at Kahiti. And then, of course, this weekend we have member guests, so we'll continue that. We did just hire a new general manager at Tokwa. We're hoping that this will finally solidify the team at that restaurant, which we've been having one heck of a time with. But Chris, this is his second week. He is also a resident of Tokwa. He moved to the village about 4 or 5 months ago. He comes to us not only with a wealth of knowledge in the business, many years of experience, but he is also very well connected into the village now. He's new enough so that he's still really a great candidate for us. So we're really excited. Please, as you guys go into Tokwa to have a meal or play golf or whatever, please introduce yourselves as Chris gets acclimated to the system. So we'll run into numbers. First one I had was Kahiti. Kahiti continues to do a fantastic job as far as sales are concerned. We're up 22%, with the bottom line subsidy down another 5%. So we're really in some really good shape over there in Kahiti. So we can move unless anybody's got any questions on that one. We'll kind of run through these real quick. Tanasi, we had a really good third quarter again, so we actually made a few bucks. So we were able to, I think we went from about $40,000 loss for the year down to 15. Obviously sales are just insanely down, but in all of the Tanasi, Tokwa, and Yacht Club restaurants, we were able to really trim some fat. We've removed one manager from each position. I mean, we went over this sort of last quarter, but as sales continue to stay flat and actually go up a little bit, although they're well below last year's numbers, we've really been able to mitigate and control expenses as best as possible. So we're in okay shape at Tanasi. And then Tokwa, obviously we don't have, next slide, Shannon. We don't have last year's, any numbers from last year, so all we have is 2020. But what you'll see is sales are very close to the sales at Tanasi. We're running about 650 at Tokwa, 670 or 80 at Tanasi, and about 660 at the Yacht Club. I mean, all the restaurants run right around the same sales numbers. And then, that's led us to the bottom about 46. We did have an extra manager at Tokwa for a while, but as we run into next year, hopefully we'll be able to clean this up a little bit. And then the Yacht Club, which is actually the most exciting of all. I came to you, the question was asked of me last quarter, at the end of last quarter, when we did this QBR, where we think we'll end up. And I thought the number might be somewhere around 100. At this point, we actually made money in the third quarter. We had a positive in the third quarter. So we've taken that number reversed, which is great. So we're down to 39 through the third quarter. So now I am predicting somewhere in the 50 to 60 range. December, we have 0 Christmas parties. They've pretty much all canceled on us. We are doing Thanksgiving, so we're hoping that'll be a boost. We're not going to do a buffet. We're going to do a sit-down, plated, small brunch menu, including turkey and all the trimmings, but some other items as well. And then hopefully we'll do a Black Friday tiki, and we'll actually have a decent weekend out of that. Typically, November is a really bad month because the week before, the week after, everybody's traveling. This year will probably be a little different. I'm sure some folks are going to get out of town, but many will probably stay. Maybe December might turn the tide as well, and we might actually have a good Christmas sort of time frame if everybody's not leaving town. So I'd like to think, if we could keep that number to 50, I mean, that would be fantastic. Considering last year we were at almost 150. That's, it's going to be a huge turnaround for us, which will be great. So the guys have done a really, really, really good job. So the fact that we made money in third quarter was a true, positive and a real compliment to the guys that are running the operation to really control their costs and maximize the revenues. So short and sweet.
Any questions for Andy?
Do you still have people coming to the boat docks for carry-out meals?
Mm-mm.
No?
So we are doing, I mean, some days 4 people to go. Some.
But you still offer it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We still have to go here. We have at least a to-go order here every single day.
Okay.
Some nights on the weekends, we might have, 12, 15, 20 people that call up.
Yeah.
But absolutely, it's still offered.
Now, you know that we've expanded the courtesy dock, or not expanded, reconfigured the courtesy dock at Tenassi to get more temporary boats in there.
That I did not know,
Yeah.
and that's exciting.
Yeah. So just for the sake of us, if you're inclined to go up and down the lake on your boat, you've got 2 places you can stop in Tellico Village and get you a really excellent box lunch or dinner and enjoy your time on the lake.
We did have a good, at Tenassi, obviously in the height of the summer, but we do have a good showing as far as people coming in their boats and coming up and eating on the patio and hanging out. That dock was certainly a challenge at times, so the fact that it's been expanded is fantastic.
Well, not expanded, it was reconfigured.
Oh, reconfigured,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to go have a look at that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Andy? Thank you, Andy.
Great, you're welcome.
And next up is Jerry Doherty with the Tellico Village Volunteer Fire Department.
Welcome back, Jerry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I apologize that 2 of the slides I'm going to have to give you some information that you could add to it, but if you want to start out. My typical 6 bullet points that I'd like to just run over real quick. First one is our run data for the year. Next slide. At the end of September, we were at 617 total calls. Right now, we're sitting around 659 calls, 20 days into the month. And given that, we'll most likely exceed the 800 calls that we had last year. We've had 5 motor vehicle accidents on 444 in the past 14 days. Next one. Oh, that's the wrong PowerPoint. It's last month's. Go ahead and shoot past it. Go ahead. See if we can catch up. No, go ahead. No. This is July. This is the slide that I shared back on July 14th, last time I met with you. And just look at the 2 numbers, the 2 big numbers on the right side is confirmed cases in the state of Tennessee was 66,788, and deaths, the daily number was 1,514. And next slide. I hope it's not there. Okay. It should be marked October 20th presentation. Yeah, that's it. There we go. Now it looks better. No, it still doesn't look right.
It does say October 21st.
It says it on the 21st, yeah, so okay. My apologies. I will send a clean copy as soon as I get out. But if I could walk through the deck that you have in front of you, as of today, or as of 3 o'clock yesterday, the COVID information for the state of Tennessee, if you just want to mark on that one slide that had this image of the state. The confirmed cases in the state of Tennessee is 233,569 confirmed cases in the state of Tennessee. Fatalities, from July 14th, it was 676. As of yesterday at 3 o'clock, it's 2,952. And confirmed cases, new cases yesterday is 1,508. So the state of Tennessee is averaging about 1,500 cases a day of COVID. Next slide. All right, and this one is really bad because I have information from July, August, and September, and October. So what I can say is as of October 20th, for Loudoun County, the number would be at the bottom of that line, 324 cases, and 3 deaths so far in the month of October. So that brings a total of 10 deaths in this Loudoun County for through this year. Monroe County, for October 20th, there's 180 cases, and fatalities or deaths are at 8. Knox County, October 20th is 2,255 and 7 deaths. And for the state of Tennessee, it's 37,430 cases or 498 deaths. And this morning, Sweetwater Nursing Facility added 11 deaths to Monroe County.
So Jerry, may I?
Yes, sir.
And again, I'm looking at this slide here, but July Loudoun County was how many?
July, at the end of July, was 345 for Loudoun
Okay,
County.
and then,
August, the end of,
or just up through October?
through, I just do it by the month. I don't
Okay.
do the total
Okay,
on this spreadsheet.
all right.
But if I could, I'll just share Loudoun. July was 345. August was 346. September was 274. Hey, we might be going in the right direction. So far this month, 324.
Yeah.
So we're going the wrong direction with COVID. So next one. So the department is still operating at TEMSCON 1, and that means 1 vehicle is on the road, and we will have 2, maybe 3 responders responding to a call. And at the front door of the residence, we will ask 5 questions, 6 foot from the door. And some of our residents are a little upset with us because we're not entering the house fast enough to take care of their loved ones. But we're trying to protect ourselves. So we're asking, has anyone been tested positive or anyone been in contact with someone that has tested positive? Have they had a fever in the past 48 hours? Does anyone in the house have a cough? Does anyone in the house have shortness of breath? And temperature is taken of everyone in the house. So they're the 5 questions that we ask before we go in. And last night, we had a call to the neighborhood, and the questions weren't answered properly, so we had to don full PPE to go into the neighborhood. Bruce?
No, I was just going to say and get clear that we do take temps before we go in.
Yes.
Of everybody in the house.
Okay, and next slide, I don't know if that's, okay, that's, this was slide as of July, and since that, we're at 29 members active. Joe Beal was, he came out of retirement and worked with us during COVID, and he has since retired. Mark Krauswell has retired. I think that one's okay. That's the rest of it is okay. So that's the way it is okay. All right, next slide. All right, and this is a Knox, the old set of slides for the Knox box. I'll just read what I have from the new Knox box. They are installed at the Premier Residence. They're at the Community Church, First Baptist. And thank you, POA, because all of the major facilities in Loudoun County have Knox boxes. And our first test was put to service at the rec center at 3 o'clock in the morning. We had a sprinkler, we had an alarm for the sprinklers. The water was flowing through the sprinkler system. So we were able to go up, unlock it, get inside the building. But we have lessons learned from this one. The doors into the room where the sprinkler was locked. So we had to make a couple phone calls. So we were able to check the building out to assure that there was no fire, but we could not get in there to silence the alarm or the water flow. So thank you, POA. And what we have done is we have drafted letters to 25 businesses in the village asking if they would like to be a part of the Knox box system. And again, it's a secured system. Over on the left-hand side is the safe that is in the two fire engines and the rescue truck 127. And in order to get that key out, you have to enter the last 4 digits of your social security number, turn that, and that key will come out. And that key that's shown there, it says E123, would be the one that you would stick into the box on the center wall there, open that one, and that would be the key to get into the building. And then we have access to everything. So we're working our way with Jeff, great working with him as far as maybe the codes and the alarm codes, where different things are. So great progress has been made with the POA. Next. We can just blow these away because they're not even going to be representative. But response time, I'll just give an update on that. Prior to COVID-19, we were at 4.3 minutes, first person at the door on a call. Through the month of September, we were at 5.5 minutes. We could attribute that to COVID because we're fewer people and people responding. And then the other one is the construction on the 2 bridges. So that has added a little bit of response to, added time to our responses, responding to calls. We're working with the state, and initially they were going to put in an audible alarm that if we used our siren to what is called the Yelp mode, that would change the lights from red to green and would be able to proceed in. But the TDOT reducing the time from 5 minutes to 3 minutes has helped us dramatically. The wait time is maybe a minute and a half. So it's working very well right now. We haven't had any major problems, and if we have some, we're going to go back to TDOT and they'll work it up through the chain of command for changes. Okay, and I think an update on the SWOT analysis is we met with we had input from the board members, POA, we had a couple of people from the POA input to us. The raw data, as we call it, was honest, critical, informative, and useful. And with that, we got everything. We worked with a consultant to pull it together. And the department right now is a Tellico Village Fire Department. EMS is 85% of our calls. Fire is 15% of our calls. So we're looking at trying to get better blend of people to respond to the calls. So we're going to start we just worked through our policies and procedures to get changes. So we're going to have an EMS division and a fire division. And under the fire division, we'll have 2 groups. One would be structural firefighters, and the other one would be fireground technicians. On the EMS side, it would be AEMTs, BEMTs, and EMRs. So it's going to be better for us to recruit new people because some of the people that we have received applications on are saying, I don't want anything to do with medical, I would like to do fire. So we couldn't do that before, so now we're going to be able to do that. So if you want to be a retired firefighter and would like to come back, here's the division for you. Or if you're a retired nurse, you'd like to work over here, you don't have to worry about fires. So we're trying to work through how that's going to be rolled out. It's not finalized yet. Go ahead, next. Because I think, yeah, nothing. This is totally wrong slides, the whole package. Sorry. Go ahead. No. So that was 4.3, and then for the month of September it was up to 5.5 minutes per call. That's it. Go ahead. Any questions? I apologize for,
Any questions for Jerry?
All right, Jerry, a couple questions online. The first one is, has the VFD responded to any calls outside of Tellico Village this year?
yes, we have had, on our mutual aid calls to the county, been 12.
There's been 12, okay. And then the other question is, do you have a reciprocal support agreement with surrounding communities?
Yes, and it was utilized back in September. We had a house fire on, okay.
Neighborhood's fine.
113, I can remember the house number,
Neighborhood's fine.
113. And my deputy chief pulled up and says, light smoke coming out of the garage. And with that, that triggered in the county, full county response system. So we had Greenback, Philadelphia Fire Department, and Loudon Fire and Rescue responding to that call. So it was reciprocal on that call.
Jerry, I have a question. I know you've recently been working on your fundraiser. How are you doing?
Fundraisers, we are at $2,000 over where we were last year. The letter that went out at the end of September announcing our open fund drive-through was really very positive. We were down $20-some thousand before that, so we've kicked it up, and we had 132 people go through the drive-through that day, and the numbers were still coming in. So this month should be good, bringing us back up to better than just right about where we were last year. And we have cut back on our spending because of that, and we have assembled all of our costs that we would be submitting in for a possible FEMA money, but they said the probability of it is slim, and it would be 18 to 24 months before you get any money back, if we get any back.
Okay. But that's good news, though.
Yes.
Any other questions for Jerry?
If I could, I'd like to, at the end of your meeting, if you'd come outside and I'll show you our new rescue truck.
Love to.
Okay?
Thanks, Jerry.
That's all right.
You're on?
He's waiting for
I was waiting for slides.
You can't do them from memory?
There you go. Thanks, Shannon. Providing an update for financials through the month of September. September, again, was a very good month for us as far as activities, revenues, expense management. You can see by these key non-financial indicators, the activity level throughout the village remains high. We had, we're just a little bit over 6,300 assessed lots, a little bit favorable to budget month to date. Year to date, we're a little bit behind, and I know the question was asked during my FAC. That's really from early in the year with kind of the jump-off rate or jump-off number from the 2019 actuals into the 2020 budget. But as the activity continues to build, that'll get minimized as the year closes out. Continued good news with Beth and the folks working hard to get POA lots sold. We've had 10 for the month. versus a budget of 4. So year-to-date, we're already at 103 versus a budget of 36. Now, I know that's, something that we'll talk about the assumptions in the 2021 budget, but very good news on that front. Good news as well on the suspended accounts and collection activity. That remains pretty well unimpacted from the coronavirus. So expected some degradation there that we have not seen. So total paying lots were a little bit higher for the month. And then on head count, we went up a little bit. We're at 101 head count versus a budget of 107. Year-to-date average, we're kind of inching up as well as, Chris Carter and folks work to fill positions. On the public works side for property transfers, we had 100 property transfers for the month versus a budget of 25. So we have had 606 transfers year-to-date, or 381 favorable to budget. New home permits remain strong. We had 20 for the month, favorable by 9, and we are 50 new home permits favorable year-to-date. Miscellaneous permits, we were basically right at budget for this month. We'll see that number continue to rise. Right now, we're unfavorable to budget by 44, but I've heard some very good things about the new ACC codes enforcement person, and I expect that number to go up quite a bit. Tank installations, we've had 16 for the month, another strong month. And year-to-date, we're at 143. Our water and sewer usage, right now we're kind of getting into cooler weather, so I think, people are having their irrigation systems blown out soon. And but for the month of September, water usage and sewer usage remained high. Great news on the golf side. I know Chris is online, but just a fantastic month for golf and year-to-date. So total rounds for the month are favorable, almost 3,200 rounds. And daily and prepaid rounds out of that exceeded annual rounds. So that is very good news. On a year-to-date basis, he is almost at 17,000 rounds favorable. And that's about a 17% increase year over year. On the dock side, as Pat will often say, there's not a problem leasing docks right now. We have 2 slips that are open, one at E dock and one at H dock. And at the time of this report, we were just awaiting payment. So I expect that is all done, and we're 100% filled up on docks. We do have some softness on the RV secured and unsecured lots, mostly on the secured lot side. That continues to be a focus with Mitzi and Clayton to get those leased out. And then on the rec side with membership, we're down 179 to budget on the individual memberships, and down 333 memberships on family. So year-to-date doesn't look as bad, but what's encouraging is the month-over-month change when I get into the rec membership detail. That trend is kind of leveled out somewhat, but obviously we took a big hit with suspending memberships for 2 months and then the effects thereafter. Next slide, please. So overall, our revenue, we're just over $17,554,000. On the expense side, we're at $15,913,000. So year to date, our net income is at $1,641,000, which exceeds budget by $1,783,000. So we're strong not only on the revenue side, but also on the cost side. Next page, please. So on the revenue, this correlates with a lot of the non-financial indicators. We're basically right at budget on the assessments. Continued favorability that we've seen all year on the late fees, offset by bad debt expense. Golf, we're favorable on golf revenue by $293,000. And really good news is golf merchandise. Golf merchandise is favorable to budget, which, you know, looking back about 4 months ago, I think everyone thought we were a little bit over our skis on the golf merchandise budget. So it's good news that they're favorable for the first time. On the rec side, we're unfavorable to budget in revenue by $225,000. Again, about 2 months worth, or $150,000 is the big majority of that. Water and sewer revenue favorability is pretty much all volume driven. Same with installed tanks. We're 39 tank installations favorable to budget, which is driving that $282,000. Dock and RV, even though it looks like a manufactured number there and we're right at budget, docks are actually unfavorable by 9 due to earlier in the year open docks. RVs are unfavorable by 19,000, and then the offset is 28,000 of favorability in the gas docks. On the ACC permit side, we're favorable 164,000 due to 50 permits favorable, so all volume. Food service, Andy talked a little bit about Kahiti. Obviously, that strong performance shows itself here on our revenue side. And then other, and I still know the board's recommended I break this out. As soon as budgets settle down a little bit, I'll have more time to do that. But other is really broken out into a couple key pieces. $59,000 is the donation that we received earlier in the year for the Kahiti portico. We've got $76,000 of favorability related to property transfer fees. $21,000 of favorability driven by higher interest income due to our higher cash balances. And then we have a $30,000 COVID relief money that Parker had applied for, and I believe he'll talk a little bit more in the CFO's report of activities. So kind of a mix of somewhat extraordinary items coming through our other revenue. On an overall trend for revenue and expenses, you'll see where obviously, you know, the impact of HA5 timing threw us off a little bit in the middle months, but we continue to be strong even in August, September time frame. And yeah, I look to continue that in the fourth quarter. Next slide, please, Shannon. On the expense side, we did pick up a little bit on the maintenance side. I know, you know, for a lot of the year we were running favorable and you kept hearing timing. Well, Jeff is getting his folks picked up on a lot of different items. A lot of tree removal took place in September. There was about $40,000 related to Collins Tree Service and Bracket for some of the fall cleanup. Obviously, the new brush truck and stuff, that activity will continue throughout the fall. There continues to be some favorability due to like yacht club renovation, which you'll hear later with Parker on the capital request, as well as like the wet well recoating work that Chad talked to you all, I think, a couple weeks ago. That'll be coming through in roughly the late October, early November timeframe. So from a maintenance perspective, I think we're making progress to get it caught up by year end. On the salary and benefit line, we're $397,000 favorable. 49,000 of that is coming through in payroll taxes due to COVID-related tax relief. Open staffing, we delayed merit increases per board direction, and there's some favorability taking place in the group insurance line as well. Bad debt, I talked about really being the offset for collections. Legal and professional, we're a little bit unfavorable here, and that's really due to the additional legal work related to the Wellness Center roof. So I know Kevin's not looking at me right now.
Kevin, are you going to write a check back to the POA?
Operating supplies, continued favorability there. It's mostly timing on small tools. Contract labor, we're slightly unfavorable, but that's a little bit deceiving. If you look at the last few months, rec temp staff has gone up by about 11,000 a month. And, that trend is expected to continue as long as the protocols continue. And I think Simon has addressed that somewhat in the draft budget that's presented several times. Andy talked about the yacht club management fee. We were basically at zero for the month of September, so some good yacht club performance. Depreciation is really timing of CapEx. And then water and sewer cost of service and tank installation, that's all volume driven. On the water and sewer side, 90,000 of that variance is driven by higher warranty work. Taxes, license, and insurance, that unfavorability is partially driven by the higher insurance on the renewal. I think it was for some additional D&O coverage. Golf merchandise, even though we're basically just a little bit above on the revenue side, we're a little bit behind on cost of service, and that's really due to a product mix with selling a little bit more of clubs and hard goods versus apparel. And Chris and I and the team have kind of addressed that product mix in the 2021 draft budget. As this was the first year, we're kind of, getting our toes wet with running that pro shop. And then the remaining 305,000 favorable in other expenses. 115 of it is gain on the sale of assets, mostly the POA lot sales. And we've got some timing on software expense. I know 60,000 of it is that the GIS maintenance software in Public Works, but just a whole mix to bring us to favorable on the expense side by 950,000. So here on a monthly trend, you'll see for the month, we're at 436,000 in net income. Not quite as good as we had in August, but still an outstanding month and continues to be a strong year. Next slide, please. So here's the P&L basically on a trend. You'll see that our performance has been very consistent. I feel like somewhat of a broken record every month, but I'd rather be the bearer of good news.
Yeah.
So very good performance all around. Some other things to note, you'll see kind of in the middle on the revenue line, I always like to point out like rec revenue. You'll see the 2 months that we basically suspended any revenue recognition, and then we've come back just at a lower rate. On the expense side, you'll see yacht club management fee. Andy talked about several of the months with a strong credit. Again, that's working well. And, overall, a good financial month. Next slide, please. So this is the water and sewer rate volume. Again, on the revenue side, we're 337,000 favorable. 90 is related to higher warranty work, and the water and sewer revenue is pretty much all driven by higher volume, offset somewhat by a little bit lower rate. And then the volume is really driving the cost side, as well as the warranty cost of service being a one-for-one offset on the warranty revenue. Next slide. So on the golf rounds report, I thought I would just kind of highlight a few key points. On the golf rounds, I had mentioned earlier, we are at 14,656 at the very bottom, favorable to budget, and versus prior year, we've had a 17% increase year over year. And what I put a highlight in stars there, what's really nice to see is that all the courses have really enjoyed that higher level of play and usage. Next slide, please.
Wait a second.
Yes, sir.
As long as you're on this one,
Yeah.
for those people that were on this board a couple of years ago, when we implemented that after two golf, which Chris is going to modify this year, and rightly so, if you recall, the issue was that we were utilizing 17% of the golf course tee times, and 83% were going unused. So we had virtually no afternoon golf. So we implemented, this board through the Golf Advisory Committee, implemented an after-two program, which was ridiculously cheap. And the whole idea was to get people out and accustomed to playing in the afternoons. And I just did an addition on this of 14,656 total rounds year-to-date. We've had 7,544 after two. That's 50% of the total. And I know we're going into budget season, and we have discussed and Chris is working on this, the rate to advance the culture but still maintain that value. Kind of like selling a hotel room late in the afternoon, same process. Is that we've got revenue hanging out there that we can take advantage of, and our residents are taking advantage of it, and the rounds are showing up. Okay, that was all.
Good. Next slide, please. So another good thing on the golf side, for guest rounds, and I'm sure this week with member guests it'll even get better, but we're 2,233 favorable to budget. And again, that's also a 17% year-over-year increase. Normally, we would have seen a lot higher guest play at Kahiti, but that's pretty well distributed, again, across all the courses. So that certainly helps when you come down to more of a yield metric per round played. So next slide, please. So total cart rounds, obviously the coronavirus impacted the ability of people, sharing carts, which actually helped on the cart usage. Our total cart rounds are 10,800 favorable to budget for the year. And then I highlighted down at the bottom, our total consolidated rounds are 16,889 rounds favorable year to date. And I think Chris is pretty optimistic that for the full year, I think he mentioned like 20,000 rounds favorable. So I'm hoping in the October, November, December, weather cooperates and the nice cool days will continue to wear it out on golf. Next slide, please. On the rec membership, just kind of highlighted the September. Right now, we're at 688 members for family, 417 on the individual side. Again, I mentioned the variance on the key non-financial indicators versus budget, but I also did note we went down only 27 from August to September on family, and we went down 15 on individual. So I haven't confirmed this with Simon, but I believe that's just the, as annual memberships kind of come up for renewal, people are kind of holding off and waiting to renew until things settle down. So what's nice is that it's not a drastic, precipitous drop that just keeps continuing. So
Unfortunately, we're down almost 33%, to budget in family and 30% in individual. That's a big revenue hit.
yes, absolutely.
What we have to hope is that is not becoming the new norm.
I'm sorry, what?
We have to hope that that's not becoming the new norm.
Well, yeah, and hopefully the UVC filters that we, approved at the last budget meeting will make people feel more safe.
Okay, any questions on the financials? If not, I'll hand it over to Parker to talk about the CFO activities.
Fair enough. Thank you, Kevin.
Kevin pointed this out in the financial review that I think was booked as other income. We did receive $30,000 in unrestricted COVID relief funds. That was from the state of Tennessee and were reflected in September financials. There were no restrictions on that money. It was also unrelated to the Paycheck Protection Program. In addition to that, year to date, and this kind of, it accumulated through the year starting back probably in March, but year to date, we have also received about $48,000 in federal tax credits. This due to the Families First paid sick leave provisions. So as employees take up to 2 weeks sick leave, the federal government reimburses the payroll costs, most of the payroll costs for that, in the form of a payroll tax credit. So to date, we've received about $48,000 in those funds. We're still awaiting PPP forgiveness determination. Don't really have any word from either United Community Bank or the Small Business Administration as to its status, but we think we've met all the requirements and certainly are anticipating forgiveness of those loans or that loan at some point, possibly by the end of the year. The Form 990 and 990T informational tax returns are complete. The audit committee is scheduled to review those on Thursday, October 29th, so that would be next Thursday. Don't anticipate any problems with that. There are no issues identified to complete the forms and file them. Deadline for filing is November 16th. So we've got plenty of time to get that reviewed and filed with the IRS. Okay, so next slide, please. We've got several capital projects and one maintenance project that do require board review and consideration for approval. The first of these is the purchase of 2 HVAC replacement units for the yacht club. Total budget for all facilities for the POA is some $52,000 for the 2020 budget year. To date, we have not spent anything out of that budget, and this request for these 2 HVAC units is some $32,353. Funding would be from the R&M Reserve Fund. And Finance Advisory Committee did review and approve this, or recommended it. PSAC also recommended its approval. Basically, the 2 units being replaced are old and worn out. We recharged them to get us through the summer, but that's not going to last, and it's uneconomical to continue. We're recommending the low bidder. That was Interstate Mechanical Services. They also, you'll recall, Interstate is our preventative maintenance contractor servicing all of our HVAC systems. And I already mentioned the total budget for the year. That would leave just under $20,000 remaining to meet other replacement needs for the rest of the year in the event that another unit or 2 bit the dust. So you see the bids that were solicited, 4 were solicited, 2 were received, and the low bid, Interstate Mechanical, is recommended. So I would ask the board to consider approval of $32,353 as a capital project with funding from the R&M Reserve Fund.
Okay, I need a motion to approve capital project funding of $32,353 from the R&M Reserve Fund for the replacement of 2 HVAC units at the yacht club. Marty, Sue, discussion.
I'd like to know where these units go because this one in this room works perfect.
That's a few.
If you were in the board this summer, you would know.
So do you have anything constructive to say?
I'm wondering why 2 of the people we requested bids from did not bid. Did they give you an answer, a reason why?
I don't know the answer to that. I do know from experience that all building contractors and subcontractors are extraordinarily busy. And my guess, and it's just that, my guess is that they just didn't have the time or the interest in doing the work.
So our time schedule prevented them from bidding.
Yeah.
Just for your knowledge, Carla, sitting in the Peace Act, we're having a problem getting bids on a lot of our projects just right now. We've gone out like on the docks, and we've identified as many as maybe 10 or more people around the country that will, and we don't get bids on like 2 or 3 of them's all. So it's hard getting bids on some stuff that we do.
Yep. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next slide. Okay, next capital project funding request is for renovations on the first floor of the yacht club. This would include new restaurant equipment for the back bar and bar equipment, new carpeting, painting, knockdown textured walls, and new bar stools. This project was budgeted for this year at $110,000. The request is for $104,280, funding from the R&M Reserve Fund. Finance Advisory Committee reviewed and recommended approval of this project. Basically, the first floor of the yacht club is a bit out of date, needs a general refresh. Area gets a lot of hard use, and we also want a look that's consistent with the aesthetics of other facilities in the village, the other clubhouses particularly. The proposal is for Trimark as one of the main vendors, and then some floor coverings by Broadway, TVE. Trimark is the equipment vendor and installer. We've had good experience with them in previous projects, and despite the fact that they were about $4,000 higher bid than, or higher quote than KTOM, the experience with working with them in the past led this management team to recommend that they be the approved contractor, they and along with TVE and Broadway. So the request to the board is to approve this funding request, $104,280, funding from the R&M Reserve Fund.
Okay, I need a motion to approve capital project funding of $104,280 from the R&M Reserve Fund for the renovation of the first floor of the yacht club.
Motion approved.
Sue, second. Pat? Discussion.
Question. I see that we used the number 2 bidder on the Topa Clubhouse project. Is that the supplier where we got the bar stools at Topa? Awesome. I think they're really pretty.
I take you like it. Mikey likey.
I do. I think they look really, really nice.
Other discussion?
Yeah, just a question. On the first bid, number 1, the lowest one, what was KTOM doing?
What was the question again?
They were the back bar and bar equipment bidder.
And Trimark's not the bar equipment?
Yeah, they are.
And they are also on bid 1?
Trimark, KTOM did not include installation. So that is, there's a little bit of apples and oranges there. There's a second page, I don't know if that's in your packet or not, I think
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it is.
And that second page breaks down the components of the project among the various bidders. So KTOM versus Trimark, Trimark was about $4,000 higher on the equipment side. They were about the same on shipping, but Trimark does installation for that amount. And if you consider the installation and the fact that they had done good work for us in the past, that justified the extra $4,000. And frankly, if KTOM provided the equipment, then somebody would have to be responsible for its installation, and they probably are close to the same number.
So basically, they didn't bid the same way. Okay. Other questions, comments? All in favor? 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, this next project was a late-breaking addition, and I sent this out via email. I also have hard copies, if anyone would like a hard copy.
We got it on
Did you? Okay, very good. This is for lighting for the Tocqueville Clubhouse parking lot and walk path. It was not budgeted, but we commented a little bit earlier, sometimes you have to get a facility in place and live with it for a while to know, where some of the problem areas might be. And lighting in the parking lots and along that walk path has presented some problems, visibility issues after dark. The request is for $16,550. Did receive favorable recommendation from Finance Committee and PSAC, and it would provide lighting for the upper portion of the parking lot and pavilion areas at Tocqueville. Specifically, it would install 3 light poles along the left side of the parking lot from the employee parking area down toward the pavilion. Also would include low voltage lighting along the walk path from the upper parking lot to the front door of the clubhouse. Question came up during Finance Committee as to whether we had thought about the impact on surrounding neighbors that are close to that parking lot area, and these lights will indeed be shielded. I have no illusions that you couldn't see the lighted parking lot from adjoining houses, but there shouldn't be a bright light shining in someone's bedroom window from the parking lot. So they will be shielded as best they can. The 2 bids were commercial lighting supply, that's for the equipment, Funderburk Electrical Service for the installation. Second bid was Lightmark.com for the equipment, Funderburk again for the installation. So the request is approval, $16,550 of capital, funding from unrestricted operating cash.
I need a motion to approve unbudgeted capital project funding of $16,550
Here.
for Tocqueville Clubhouse parking lot and walkway safety lighting from unrestricted operating cash. Second. Discussion.
Yeah, let's go over this one more time, and you just mentioned it, but then you hit the key word called unbudgeted. And this came up in our last meeting together at a budget meeting, finance meeting, and I'd like for the community to understand exactly what's going on here. I'll start off with the beginning, and then we can just go around the room. But when we built Tocqueville, we accounted for the lights, we accounted for all the issues going on there, and we installed Tocqueville, and it pretty soon became evident that we needed to do a couple of landscaping tasks to build it up to our quality standards. And it was also found that even though the lighting was adequate, there were trip hazards along that curb line, and particularly from the upper parking lot down. So, you want to go next?
To me, it's a safety issue.
Absolutely. And so when it came before the committee, Finance Committee, that most of us were sitting in, that is a driving factor, one of the few driving factors that will make this board step up for an unbudgeted item.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay,
totally.
I just wanted to explain to the community why we're doing this, because it is money. We are spending it unbudgeted, but it is something that we've discovered since Tocqueville has been open. We've lived with this quite long enough, probably a little bit too long, as a matter
Well,
of
and
fact.
it's getting darker at night.
And it's getting darker real quick,
Early.
so it needs to get in. Yep.
And to add to that point, there was some discussion among the Finance Committee about deferring this into 21 as a budgeted item.
Right.
Put it in the 21 budget, but the consensus, including those board members that were in the room or online, was that if it's a safety issue, it needs to be done sooner, not later.
Right,
Right.
exactly. And thank you for doing this.
So other comments, questions?
Have we already kind of tapped too far into that safety reserve fund to use that for this? Or I know Bruce wants to kind of protect that. Oh, no, never mind.
Well, yeah.
We don't need to take that out of that.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I was going to
This is the
say,
reason for doing it, but we don't use, we got general funds that we can.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend safety
so
reserve.
all in favor? 6-0.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I just,
Okay, I'm on the
looks
roll,
could
let's
kill.
keep going.
I'm out.
Okay, this is a maintenance project, not capital, but an important one nonetheless. This is for wet well coating at sewer lift stations at Coyote Cove, Tenacity Cove, and then wet well repair and coating at the main lift station. The coating, I think, is somewhat self-explanatory. To coat the walls of the wet wells is with a spray liner coating called CTR. We do have some experience with this. It has a 10-year warranty, and we have been pleased to this point with its performance. There is a repair at the main lift station to repair a partition between the pump wells. And so the main lift station does include that additional work, and it's broken out of the bids down toward the bottom of the project, or towards the bottom of the page, excuse me. The budget amount total, we had budgeted $114,000 and change for wet well coating. Total for this request is $82,589, and that's for all three coating projects and the repair project, so it's kind of all in. This to be funded from the Water and Sewer Reserve Fund. It did receive favorable recommendation from the Finance Committee and from PSAC. This coating extends the life of the wet wells. It prevents hydrogen sulfide gas and other corrosive chemicals from eating through the concrete walls of the well. Mentioned the 10-year warranty. Not just everybody can or wants to do this kind of work.
Wonder why.
So,
Yeah, really.
so it's a rather limited universe of suppliers that do this sort of thing. So, sole source, both for the coatings application and for the lift station repair project. It also, not only is it dangerous work in a harmful environment, but it's a confined space as well and requires additional safety measures for it to be done safely. So the request to the board is approval of $82,589 of maintenance expense for coating of the wet wells as described and a repair at the main lift station wet well, and funding for all of this from the Water and Sewer Reserve Fund.
Okay, need a motion to approve the maintenance expenditure of $82,589 from the Water and Sewer Reserve Fund for repairs at the main lift station and recoating of the wet wells at the Coyote Coves, Tenacity Cove, and main lift stations. Marty, Pat, discussion?
Couple things. Number one is that when we do this, we have to bypass the wet wells, and we have to use not emergency, but pumps and all to get around, generate whatnot. Do we need to notify, I'm asking, the public that smells liable to go up during this period of time? And
Oh, I think they'll notify
oh,
us.
I know that. I'm just
No,
telling
we
you.
want to do it in advance,
Yeah, I think you
Parker.
need to tell them in advance that we're doing this, and you may detect some odors, and sorry, but it's an unfortunate situation we have to go through. That's number one. Number two, you got about 32,000 left. Do we have any more of these
Well,
planned
that
for
was
the
my
year?
question.
Not that I'm aware of. I'm sure Jeff and Chad would have submitted all of them at one time had we had any others.
Okay. Other questions, comments? All in favor? 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next slide. We've got, at this point, we've got so many capital projects that have come before you for consideration and approval that it's had to spill over to a second page. So this first page is kind of old news, but it lists all of the capital projects that were budgeted, authorized, and approved for funding. You see in the fourth column, some of them have now been completed, so we know for certain how we came out regarding actual versus authorized. There's a notation about 2/3 the way down the page about the private funding for the Kahidi Community Center patio heating, but otherwise, you've seen all of those projects and all of those numbers before. The next page is the first time these projects, I believe, those two at the top especially, first time these projects have hit this capital project summary review of variances. Now, you'll recall the grapple truck was approved at the first board meeting of the month, as was the UVC air purification system for the Wellness Center. There also, through the CEO's signature authority, was approved the replacement of exhaust and makeup air fans for Kahidi Grill. So those things had already been approved before today, but this is the first time they have hit the capital summary. The projects that you did see today, capital projects, were the HVAC replacements at the Yacht Club first floor renovations, and the lighting for Tokwa Golf Clubhouse parking lot and walking path. So to date, from the regularly budgeted items, you've seen $1,240,000 worth of capital. Those have been authorized at $1,556,000, and so there's an overrun on that side of about $316,000. Almost all of that due to approval of unbudgeted projects, but there are good and valid reasons why we brought those to you and why you did indeed approve those. The last column to the right, we've had about $10,000 favorability of actual cost of projects versus the amounts authorized. So the net is about a $305,000 overrun. The percentages approved to date, including today, you've approved about 42% of the capital plan, and with the unbudgeted projects, for that amount of money, we're about 25% over budget for projects approved to date. If you pull the Kahidi Community Center patio lighting out, then we're about 20% over budget for projects approved to date. But there's more news that helps more than offset the overruns on those unbudgeted items, and that's on the next slide.
Can we,
But yeah, I'm happy to pause here and answer questions.
well, I see it's on your next slide, so I can wait if you want me to.
Okay,
Has to do with the wave attenuator.
yeah, next slide, if you would. Okay, so this is the time of year where I'll begin to look at what's left out of the current year's capital plan, and these are the projects that are remaining. I have coded them with an X, a D, a C, or the year, or even a word. So the C projects are carryovers to next year. I want to come back and mention one regarding brick on the Tanasi Pro Shop building, but I'll hit that here in just a moment. So the big carryovers are the water storage tank for Coyote. That was in this year's budget for $1 million. $304,000 was to have been completion of the Wellness Center roof. Well, that project we know is in sort of a legal limbo right now. Budgeted in '21 is, I forget the exact number, it's over $500,000 basically to kind of start over on that project, and another 90-some thousand to rebuild the flat part of the roof. In addition, we're carrying over the wave attenuator. You had approved, I think it was $55,000 for evaluation work, engineering, underwater evaluation of the wave attenuators. Haven't been able to find qualified help to do that yet, so that whole project does a carryover. Yes, sir.
The dive team is scheduled to be here November 1st and be completed by November the 5th on their,
Outstanding.
Where are they coming from, Bruce?
New York. They're coming from New York.
They let them go.
What? Cuomo let them go?
But they're looking somewhere to stay for
They
2
won't let-
weeks.
He probably won't let them come back.
Probably won't. That's not our problem after that. But we may have to pay them per diem till they can go back, you know. So, but at any rate, they are scheduled through our Jacobs Engineering. They'll be
Okay.
here November 1st. And
Excellent, excellent.
should be finished by the next day, actually, and then they'll start putting their report together for us as to what we'll have to do with the wave attenuator. So
Okay.
we'll know within probably a month what we're going to have to do with that.
Okay. That being the timing, let me just make a note for you to remember. Yes, the budget will come to this board for approval at your regular November board meeting. Included in that will be some capital number for the wave attenuator for next year. But we don't have to finalize that number truly until January because of this study going on. We'll get that report. We'll be able to fine-tune what really is going to be needed in the 21 capital plan, and I'll fine-tune that and bring it back to you at the January board meeting. So that's just a timeline to remember. You're not locked into that at the November meeting. The X's on the list are no longer needed for various reasons, so $62,000 has kind of dropped out of this. We are planning to execute in 2020 about $136,000. That's for the Kahidi Pool Gate security. That's in process. Variable frequency drives, you'll see that at the November meeting. And water meter replacements, we expect to complete that work by year end. Let's see, what else? And HVAC replacements, that's remaining if needed. Golf deferred about $65,000 worth of projects into the late years of the 10-year plan. So out of that total capital remaining in this year's budget, $1,852,000, at least 1.5, maybe 1.6 million of that is not going to be spent this year, but carries over into next year. And while I'm making that point, I want to refer you back. You may not have this in front of you, but just trust me on giving you the numbers for the moment. Our total cash balance as of the end of September, $7,167,000. Operating cash accounts for 2.9 million of that, and then the difference, be about 4.2 million, is in reserve funds. So we didn't spend it this year. The money is in the bank either as operating cash or reserve funds to cover these projects that are carrying over into next year. So despite the fact that next year's capital plan will end up higher than we said it would a year ago, there is cash on hand to cover that, and I think to cover it pretty handily. Oh, and one other point. We do still have the $1.1 to $1.2 million of PPP funds as a loan. The cash is in the operating cash account, but it's offset on the balance sheet by an equivalent amount of debt. That debt we hope will be forgiven, and if it is, that will ultimately run through as other income, hopefully by the end of this year. But that's counting the chickens before they've clucked. Okay, last slide you've all been waiting for. Cash flow check shows where we started out with the original budget for this year. The strong favorable variance on net income of $1,783,000 would give a projection just based on those numbers of $2.4 to $2.5 million net income for the year. Depreciation is running under budget by $144,000. Remember, that's good from a net income standpoint. It's bad from a cash flow standpoint because it's a non-cash entry. And CapEx, $305,000 over budget for projects approved to date, but we're offsetting that by $1.7 million roughly of capital deferrals. So all in, cash flow we had budgeted before some of the stuff down at the bottom of the page. Net cash flow excluding working capital, we had budgeted a drawdown of about 460, offset by $3 million favorable variances, project about a $2.5 million favorability on cash flow for the year. And I'll just point out, if you look back at the balance sheet, those current cash balances, $7.1 million in total. That's $3.1 million more cash in the bank than we had this time a year ago. So it's real money. The numbers kind of match up, and that's the reasoning behind it, but it provides us some comfort going into next year. And I'm done. Questions?
Thank you. Very good.
Thanks, Parker.
Okay.
Hey, Parker. Parker, before you go, I was looking at your capital projects remaining and the carryover. You're showing $1 million carryover for water storage tank. We're not going to do that.
No, we're not. That was what was budgeted for this year. What is going to happen next year is
pumps.
$300,000 for pumps.
But I'm sitting here trying to look at your numbers. I'm trying to come up with 1.6 million carryover, and the biggest portion of that is the tank.
Yes.
So how are you getting that we're going to have 1.7 in carryover?
Well, it's money that was budgeted to be spent this year that we're not spending.
Oh, so you're not, that's just money we're carrying over?
Yeah.
That we
Not
got
carrying
through-
the project.
We got through our assessments.
Yes.
So, okay.
Or
I
in the
understand.
case
So
of
it's
the
not
tanks,
projects you're carrying over, it's just money
it's
you're
the
carrying
money,
over?
yeah.
Okay, got it.
I'm all about the money, Bruce. I
I
don't care so much about the
I do
project.
understand
Go
that.
talk
but-
to Jeff about a
I do
project.
understand that, but we need to take that in consideration when we go to calculating the new assessment rate for the future.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, that brings us to the is there any questions from outside, Beth? No. Okay, that brings us to the ever-popular other portion of our agenda.
I have another, and it's just a reminder, and I want to make this perfectly clear. Everybody, please bear with me for a second. It does not matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. It doesn't matter, conservative or liberal. When you go visit a person representing us, or a person is going to run for office, one of the first things they do is they pull up how many people voted in that precinct, or how many, and that's what we're divided in. So when Representative Burchett comes in, or one of the senators, or Renee Hoyos comes in to talk to us, they know what, well, let's put it a different way. They know how loud our voice is by saying Loudoun County voted 8,000 people and Tellico Village voted 242. Okay, so they say Tellico Village is very demanding on Asian carbon, very demanding on all these other issues, but they're not going to come out and vote for me or against me. And it doesn't matter Democrat, Republican, Independent, because they're looking at the total. And what I'm bringing this up for, again, it doesn't matter Republican, Democrat, Independent, conservative, or liberal. The important is to count our vote, to show what impact and how loud our voice is for Loudoun County. Because if Loudoun County only turns out 8,000 people in a typical local election countywide to vote, and we turned out 8,000 in Tellico Village, we scream louder than they do. Same in Monroe County with the residents of Kahiti. So the reason I'm bringing this up, right now is the best time to go early vote, or deal with the big crowds later on in the year when it comes big time to vote. And what we can do right now is to start getting in the habit of going to the polling places and voting and massing our voice. One more time, it doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, Independent, liberal, or conservative. It is how many of us voted. And it's really important for Tellico Village to vote a very high percentage of our over 8,500 population. And thank you very much.
a paid political message, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else got another? I have one, and I'll use it to wrap up the meeting. On Monday and Tuesday, the board will convene to discuss budget. It'll be in this room. It'll be live streamed. It starts at 9 a.m. and runs till noon as it's currently scheduled. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Done.